Welcome to yet another helpful and very educative presentation on justice. Today we are looking at how justice or how judgment is perverted in the courts of law. How judgment is perverted in the courts of law. First of all, looking at the word pervert. To pervert refers to distorting. So when we say how judgment is perverted in the courts of law, we are simply referring to how judgment is distorted, how judgment is turned in the way it should not be, how judgment is altered from originally the way it was supposed to be, how judgment is changed from the right way in which it was supposed to be passed or to be made, how judgment is corrupted in the courts of law. That's what we are looking at, how judgment is turned, corrupted, distorted, twisted, and turned from the right course and from the right way, from the normal and expected way that it should have been in the courts of law. Of course, there are so many ways in which this happens. And before we go any further, I would like to state that it's not everybody involved in the systems of justice, in the systems of enforcing law. It's not everybody who is corrupt. It's not everybody who saves in a way that leads to corrupting judgment. But as we stand at the moment, not just maybe in one country, but nationwide, it's more like a plague. It's more like a very infectious disease which has corrupted most of the people who are serving in public offices and has compromised their attitude and their standard of delivering services to the public. That's why in some sections of society and in some parts of the world and in most of the countries, most of the citizens are not satisfied with the way cases are handled or are being handled by law enforcement officers, by the courts of law, and by the leadership in various countries and in various places. But that is not to say there are not a few faithful people who serve diligently, who work faithfully. And to those people, we say, we appreciate your services and we ask and hope that you will stand firm and continue to resist the pressure to do wrong things, to succumb to what may be presented before you, to entice you, to corrupt you, and make you lose the way and lose focus, so that you join in the group of people who are mishandling people's cases, who are not doing and administering the process of justice the way it should be, and hence strengthening the hands of the criminals, leading to so many commission or committing of crimes, because those who indulge or those who commit crimes are made to know, to say, they will still be able to have their way through the processes of justice and be allowed to go free. So how does judgment become perverted in the courts of law? Judgment is perverted when the truth is tampered with. When any of the officers at any stage of the process of judgment, it be from the law enforcement officers, such as the police officers, the investigators, the people involved in arresting, investigations, gathering information, recording it, processing it, and then handing it over to the courts of law, and then various officers in the courts of law, the advocates, the lawyers, and then the judges. Any of these officers, and at any stage where they come into contact, at any stage at which now they have to do their part in regard to a particular case. Perversion can occur due to tampering with the truth, with the testimony that has been presented before them, in the interest of whoever they would like that act to favor due to various reasons. At times, you may notice that at times you may present certain facts which are really true in the court of law during your court presentations. You present truths, you present the evidence that is enough for the conviction of somebody. But how is it that regardless of all those truths, regardless of all the evidence, the case still turns out in favor of the person who should be guilty or who should be punished for the offense that he had committed? How is it that still the offender is allowed to go free? How is it that judgment is still turned around in the presence of all those truths and all the evidence? At times, these law officers deliberately, craftily ignore certain facts, certain truths. They throw them out of their records or of their presentation as they represent what you had presented to them. They ignore those truths, they throw out those facts, they omit them because they know that considering them or taking them into consideration may lead to the conviction of the person whom they would like or they are working hard to see. He gets out free and walks to freedom. Maybe because they have been bribed, they have received gifts, or due to some assurances, or they have been threatened, they have received some directives from their superiors or from some influential figures or authorities, or probably they would like to establish a good relationship so that at the end of it, out of that particular case and how they are going to handle it, they may make for themselves a good name, which will result into them gaining something. So they may end up throwing away, ignoring, omitting, or sidelining certain truths, certain facts, certain points that may have been helpful in the process of them making the right decision in passing the right and the correct judgment in favor of the law and in favor of the truth. At times, they deliberately add certain false information to what has been presented. They misinterpret and they craftily make some additions. They may be minor additions, but they know what impact or effect those minor additions will have on the ultimate interpretation and on the ultimate outcome of a particular case. At times, they may engage into psychological gimmicks, psychological tactics that would make maybe some witnesses or the complainant or the person who has brought the case before the court of law to become afraid. They begin to infuse some fear, some kind of fear, some doubt, some instability. They play on your mind psychologically. And in the presence of that, justice cannot prevail because somebody needs to have a free mind. The environment needs to be friendly, and it has to be neutral, and it has to be free of any threats or of any tactics that are intended to deviate somebody, disturb somebody, or make somebody not to fully express himself and speak the whole truth as he should, or not to exhaust somebody, to puzzle somebody, to make somebody become weary to an extent where he or she fails to narrate properly what he or she knows in a particular case. So how is judgment perverted in the court of law? That is what we are just looking at. At times, they deliberately concentrate on certain portions of the law, ignoring other parts which they know to say if they were to include those other parts in their consideration of the law, even in their interpretation, their point of argument would be invalid. So what do? They deliberately ignore certain parts of the law, certain interpretations of the law. They ignore them. They throw them aside so that they can just remain or concentrate on that which will make them obtain or achieve their target. That is what they do. In some other ways, they go around the law. They use their knowledge of the law to undermine the law. The people who know the law, who are supposed to present the law properly, to interpret it properly, and to instill the law and explain it properly and apply it in a right and lawful way. Instead, they use their knowledge of the law to help or to aid criminals, to aid or help offenders, to assist offenders, to assist criminals, to assist those people who are guilty to escape punishment, to escape judgment. They help them through their knowledge of the law. They apply their knowledge of the law so that they can help offenders escape true judgment. How do they pervert the law? How is judgment perverted in the courts of law? At times, people are left vulnerable to the crooked styles and the crooked activities of lawyers who may be representing the person who is suspected to have committed a crime. And these people get access to the complainants, and they get information from maybe the complainants' records of what they have presented, or maybe even interview them. Probably them without knowing that this person is talking to them, getting information from them so that he can then go study it, see where he can modify that information, analyze it, and identify points where he can bend and twist that information and come in to insert his own ways of ensuring that judgment is perverted, judgment is turned the other way around, and his client who is a criminal, his client who should be found guilty of having committed an offense should be set free. This is what happens in these processes of judgment. You find that there are no good or special arrangements or setups that are put up to ensure that they protect the truth, they protect the law, they protect those who are innocent, and they ensure that justice is secured. People are left vulnerable to those in the sectors and in the line of justice who can exploit them and exploit their cases and exploit certain measures to ensure that they secure a good judgment for their client who should have been convicted of a crime which he had really committed. At times, you would look at the courts of law as um, stages in a theater, a stage in a theater where drama is acted out, because certain things, certain judgments, certain arrangements are done in advance. Certain discussions are done in advance. And if at all they are determined to distort judgment, to turn judgment in an ill effect, turn it, alter it from what it is originally supposed to be, change it from the right way that it is supposed to be, at times they do it in advance. And they put up certain covers that make them seem as though they are following the law. Meanwhile, they know what they are doing. At first, you may think to say, here they are going in the right direction, but they know where the turning point will come, where they will introduce in their own machinations which will enable them reach the kind of conclusion that they have already set up. Justice engineering is so much common, engineered kind of justice. It's not original, that's not how it was supposed to be, but they have just made it up using the knowledge that they have of the law. They know how to dribble around the law. They know how to turn the truth into something else. They know how to turn a lie into something else. They do some modifications. They manufacture certain things, add there, make certain quotations and so on, so that they make up a strong case where it is non-existent, where it is not. But how can you be counted as a noble profession? How can you be counted as a noble practitioner with all those crooked, deceptive tactics that you engage in, that you bring in, that you do, whilst you are supposed to be a key person in showing others the law, in teaching other people the law, and in maintaining the dignity of the law, and ensuring that the truth is upheld, the truth is respected, the truth is adhered to, because there is no justice in the absence of truth. So when you suppress the truth, when you remove the truth, when you use lies in the process of justice, then there is no justice. You cannot obtain justice. You cannot deliver just judgment when you suppress the truth, when you omit certain facts, certain truths, when you ignore, you throw them aside. It simply means you are tampering with the process of justice. You are manipulating what should have been left the way it must be, so that you can end up with a result that you yourself are interested in, due to a number of reasons. Like I earlier on said, maybe due to you being bribed, maybe you receive some gifts, maybe you are afraid of abiding by the law, taking things the way the law states they should be taken, interpreting the law in the way it must be interpreted because of the persons involved in that particular case. And so you become compromised and you lose your correct stance on the law. You end up doing something else that you should not have done. The end result is that justice is perverted. The end result is that you deliver a corrupt kind of judgment, which is injustice. And people are hurt, they are harmed by such kind of practices. They lose trust and hope in the justice system. They lose trust and hope in most of the law officers, in most of the workers in the judicial system, due to the corrupt and unlawful deeds and practices that most of the officers in these systems of justice are involved in. At times, it's due to the pressure that is mounted upon them, that is pressed upon them by leaders in high ranks, those who should uphold justice, those who should support these justice systems, those who should follow the law and allow these systems of justice to work independently, to follow the law, execute their duties in accordance with the law as stipulated probably in the constitution of the land. Instead, due to their own selfish and greedy interests, they put pressure on these people so that they can pervert justice, they can pervert judgment and deliver a corrupt kind of judgment which favors them, which favors their selfish interests, which is against the law and against the nation. Something which is very, very wrong and which is very, very sad. The law is meant to protect and preserve life and property. The law is meant to punish offenders. The law is meant to grant or to deliver order, peace, prosperity, and freedom to law-abiding citizens or people. People who are law-abiding must feel safe and free where there are good laws with competent law officers. A law officer, police, prosecutor, advocate, lawyer, judge, etc., etc., must feel satisfied, must feel free and happy if he or she follows the law in its totality in executing her services or his services. You are employed to serve the nation in accordance with the law under God. Serve diligently with fear and honesty. Do not follow unlawful directions or directives from your superiors, regardless of the position involved. Do not pervert justice for the sake of gain. Do not use people's cases to enrich yourselves, to secure good relations, or to be promoted. What is the essence of having law professionals who undermine the law, who don't respect the law, who violate the law in their performance of duty? If law officers, engage in lawless schemes as they discharge their services, if by and through your offices, you law officers, lawlessness or violation of the law is carried out and perpetrated, of what value or use are you to the nation and the people? You are expected to uphold justice. You are expected to uphold the truth, to respect the truth, to serve diligently, to fear nobody but the truth, because the truth shall set you free. The truth shall testify on your behalf. The truth shall defend you. Most of law enforcement officers, most of people working in law firms, in the judiciary, most of them or some of them have become rich through manipulating, through perverting the cases of people resulting into perverted judgment. At times they may seem to be offering very good advice, but you must be very careful. They may be playing double standards. They may have an interest in the case. They may be dealing with the person who is an offender in that particular case. They may have already obtained something, or they have already engaged into some agreements. So theirs is to get in and give some kind of advice that will see their client go scot-free without being punished or without going through the due process of the law and getting or being given the right kind of judgment that should be delivered. There are all these manipulations which ends up in a compromised justice system, in a kind of justice system that loses its respect because of the people involved and what they do. The justice system has been tarnished. It has been made into a tool that can no longer be trusted as it should be due to the unfaithfulness, the selfishness that most of the officers involved into the justice system, the law enforcement system are involved in. Most of them are friends of criminals. They've got strong links with criminals. How can you stand for the right? How can you judge rightly when you obtain gifts from criminals, from offenders, when you eat with them on the same table, when you are close friends with them? How can you manage? You become compromised. So that's how judgment is perverted in the courts of law. The truth is tampered with, either by subtracting or adding something to it. Certain manipulations are brought into place. Fear is induced into certain people involved in certain cases. Double standards played by certain officers, and help is given to the offenders. The law is dripped by those people who know the law and how it must be applied. They use that knowledge not to do the right thing, but to do the wrong thing. They help criminals, they help offenders to dodge the law, to run around and escape judgment. Is it what you were trained for as a law enforcement officer? Is it what you specialized in as a lawyer, as an advocate? Is it the purpose for which you were employed to work in that way in which you are working? We must learn not to pervert justice, because the Word of God says the following to us. Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 18 says the following: Judges and officers shalt thou make in all thy gates, which the Lord thy God giveth thee throughout thy tribes, and they shall judge the people with just judgment. Judges shalt thou set up, you are to choose. And these judges in all the cities where you are to be, in all the districts, in all the cities, in all your dwelling places, you must have judges amongst you. And these judges, God says, they must judge the people with just judgment, not unjust judgment, but with just judgment. That is the commandment of God. We must get it rightly and listen carefully. God expects you to deliver just judgment. The Bible continues on to say, thou shalt not wrest judgment. You should not twist or distort judgment. Fear God as you go about doing your duties. You are ministering among God's people. God is seeing you, and at the end of it all, God will bring each and every one of us into judgment. So we must ensure that we do things in the right way. The work that God has given you, the duty that God has allowed you to be performing, perform it in the fear and honor of God, so that you can obtain blessings from God. The Bible continues on to say, thou shalt not respect persons. You should not respect persons. It be a poor person if he is guilty according to the law, judge just like that. If it be a rich person, it be a person in authority, a high-ranking person, a wealthy person, a respected and renowned person, and if that person is guilty of an offense, judge just as it should be. Do not pervert judgment. Neither take a gift, for a gift doth blind the eyes of the wise. This is the instruction that God gives to judges. You should not get a gift. You must avoid getting gifts, because gifts will end up corrupting you, will end up compromising your thinking, your stance. You lose your position that you are supposed to be in, for you to make out, to give out right judgment. For a gift doth blind the eyes of the wise and pervert the words of the righteous. God says don't. In relation to your work of being a lawyer, a judge, an advocate, a magistrate, or a court clerk, or a law enforcement agent or officer, don't correct gifts. Don't get bribes. Stay away from such activities, because they will compromise your performance of duties. That which is altogether just shalt thou follow. In the process of doing your work, in the process of arresting people, carrying out investigations, going about making judgment, trying people in the courts of law, the Lord commands, the Lord says, that which is altogether just shalt thou follow. Follow that which is altogether just, which means there must be no any spot, no any contamination, no any turning away from the right course of justice. You must cling, you must stick to the right processes and procedures according to the law as you go about trying people and arresting people, questioning people, investigating, collecting information in the process of justice, so that you can do that which is altogether just. That is the commandment of God, that thou mayest live and inherit the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. That is the commandment of God, that we need to do things in a right way, do things in a just way, so that ultimately justice can prevail. That is what God requires of us. We should not be ensnared or enticed by riches. These are temporal things. They cannot buy life. When you do things in a wrong way, when you pervert justice, when you deliver perverted judgment, you are tampering with people's lives, you are tampering with your own life, and probably the lives of your relatives and your friends. So there is need to ensure that you follow things justly in the way you must handle things. God tells you and me to do the following as we go about delivering judgment. And it is very important to consider what God has said so that we do the right thing, so that we don't deviate from what we are supposed to do and become guilty before the face of God. We are reading in Leviticus chapter 19, verse 35 to 37. This is what the Bible says there. Verse 35 says, "Ye shall do no unrighteousness in judgment. Ye shall do no unrighteousness in judgment, in measure, in weight, or in measure." God says you must not do any injustice or unrighteousness in judgment. Even goes further to say, even when in making measurements in your scales as you measure things. Remember the other time we had alluded to symbols of justice, where you see the scale and other instruments as symbols of justice. So God here says, "Ye shall do no unrighteousness in judgment, in measure, in weight, or in measure. In all these things, do no unrighteousness. Just balances, just weights, and the just effort, and the just he shall ye have. I'm the Lord your God." So God says, use correct instruments, use correct equipment, use correct tools as you go about administering justice. Don't use different standards for different people in different cases and so on. In a particular case, use the required law which you are supposed to use. Don't say because it's this one over the same case or a similar case, you use a different kind of measure or a different kind of scales. God says just balances, just weights, just scales are the ones that are supposed to be used, so that there is justice, so that justice prevails. Yes, cases do differ, but God is saying follow the law. Be fair and equally apply the law in a fair and just manner. That is the requirement of God. That is what God is instructing you and me to do, so that we can preserve peace and order, so that we can teach others to obey God and obey the laws of the land. If you disobey the law of God and then you insist on people obeying the law of the land, obeying the laws that you present before them, do you think that would happen? It cannot happen, because you are disobedient to God, the one who is above everybody. So we must pay particular attention and obey the counsels that are coming from God to help us, to guide us on how to execute our duties, how to perform and carry out our duties in a right manner, so that ultimately that which is altogether good and right comes out of what we are doing. People who are law-abiding must feel free, must feel safe, must be comfortable, and they must be respected, because they do what is required, they do what is right. In the presence of lawlessness and offices and officers that are meant to preserve the law and ensure that it is followed and deliver justice, when these officers and officials instead become engaged in lawless tactics and lawless schemes, and when they become involved in lawlessness, lawless activities, dubious activities, manipulations, then you are destroying the law. You are distorting the law, and you end up with so many offenses. You end up with so many and so much disorder as a result of your deeds and as a result of what you are doing in regard to the law. The last text that I would like us to read is Exodus chapter 23. Exodus chapter 23 states the following. Exodus chapter 23 states, Thou shalt not, Exodus chapter 23 verse 1 says, Thou shalt not raise a false report. Put not thine hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness. Don't raise a false report. Don't support wrong cases and be a witness, a false witness, so that you can secure justice for the guilty and for people who are wrong. Verse 2 says, Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil. Law enforcement officers, judges, lawyers, advocates. Some of you are alone who have remained faithful and truthful and sincere in your execution and carrying out of your duties. The majority have become corrupted, and they are tools which are being used to perpetrate evil, to deny people of their justice. Do not be afraid when you are on the right side. Do not follow the multitude in doing that which is wrong, so that you can distort judgment. If it means standing alone, stand alone. You are not alone. You are with the truth and the honor of the truth, God himself. Neither shalt thou speak in a cause to decline after many, to wrest judgment. Don't speak just because others have said so, the majority have said that way, then you also align yourself with them. Speak the truth, do the right thing. That is what God requires of you and me. And on verse 3, neither shalt thou countenance a poor man in his cause. Don't condone or probably support or side with somebody just because of his status. Maybe he's poor or what, or maybe vulnerable. Follow the truth. Do what is right. Thou shalt not wrest the judgment of thy poor in his cause. Verse 6. Don't twist and distort the judgment just because the one who is involved in the case is a poor person, or maybe is ignorant, is not educated as you are, or maybe he has no knowledge about what the law says. Don't take advantage of the poor people, of the people who are ignorant of the law. That's why you are a lawyer. That's why you are an advocate. That's why you know the law. If you know the law, you know it not for yourself, but for those very people whom you think and you know to say they have no knowledge about the law. You are not there to take advantage of them. Instead, you should even work extra hard, because those are the people who need your services more. Because they have no idea. They are not educated as you are. They are poor. They are vulnerable. Stand up for them. Speak for them by following the law. Doing things in the right way. Not supporting criminals. Not supporting lawlessness. Not even submitting to unlawful directives that are issued from political leaders, from people in governance who want judgment to be in a certain way, and you want to follow them. Do the right thing. Do not be afraid of anything. Listen, the Bible says in the kingdom of God, people who are so much of fear, people who are afraid, cowards, will not inherit the kingdom of heaven. Cowards in doing and standing for the truth and doing what is right will not inherit the kingdom of heaven, because most of us, because we are cowards, we are afraid of certain people who are mortal, people who are there today and tomorrow there will be no more. People who are in a certain position today and tomorrow they will not be there because they are not the first ones who have held that position. we are afraid of them so much than we are afraid of God, the eternal God. Why? We are afraid, no, they will fire me, no, they will not promote me, no, they are going to hate me. So what if they hate you? Have they been with you all along in life? God has been with you. Stand up for the truth. If you do not stand up for the truth, then who will? You end up with a situation where injustice increases, and the poor and the defenseless have no one to stand up for them. And God is sad about such a situation because He expects you to speak the truth, to stand up for the truth, to defend the defenseless, defend the truth by following the law, following what is right. You'll see peace and tranquility in your lives. Your blessings will even flow to your children and to your children's children. You may not know it, but God will remember you even after you are gone. And because of your deeds, your offspring will be blessed. God will remove obstacles out of your way. Even those who fight against you will become weak, and you defeat them. Because you represent Him, you stand for Him amidst a pervasive and crooked world. You decide to stand for God in your execution of duties. That is what God expects from you and me. In a world where crookedness is so much popular and accepted and generally practiced, God is counting on you. God is counting on you to stand up for Him, to maintain the right standard, to raise up the right standard. In those meetings, speak the truth. Yeah, they may hate you. They may begin speaking against you. They may end up not sending you to seminars. Yeah, maybe deprive you of your certain privileges. God is seeing. As they do that, God will give you greater blessings than what they have deprived you of. That is what the God of truth does. He's the owner of the truth that you are standing for. So God says, thou shalt not rest the judgment of thy poor in his case. Verse 7, keep thee far from a false matter, and the innocent and righteous slay not, for I will not justify the wicked. God says He will not justify the wicked. Why do you justify people who are wrong in those courts of law? Why do you defend them? Why do you labor so much to wrest judgment, to distort judgment? People are wicked, people are sinful. You even know it yourself to say these people are wrong. But you begin to engage into certain tactics, certain gimmicks, using your knowledge of the law, your knowledge of the law, to ensure that you secure freedom for them. Why do you justify the wicked and condemn the innocent? Why do you do that? Somebody who stole maybe 2 cobs of maize, you sentence them to 6 months in prison. Somebody who stole a chicken goes in. Somebody who stole a phone costing 1,500 goes in for a year or 2. But somebody who killed a person is heavily supported and gets out free. Somebody who killed a person, a human being created in the image of God. Somebody who destroyed property, who stole things worth millions. Somebody who engaged into corrupt deals, corrupt contracts, and affected a lot of lives. You watch them and help them to escape the wrath of the Lord. You aid them, you support them, assist them to go scot-free. Meanwhile, you concentrate and you become so hard and harsh on the poor and on the minor cases that are made. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but you should be fair. You should exercise and execute justice and deliver just judgment. That is what God requires of you and me. Verse 8 says, "And thou shalt take no gift, for the gift blindeth the wise, and perverteth the words of the righteous." Again, the Bible repeats even here, warning you people in those positions, warning everybody in positions of responsibility, as we ensure and work to deliver justice and do things in a just manner. God says, don't be in love with gifts. Don't be covetous. Ensure that you do things in a just way. Ensure that justice is not perverted. Ensure that you deliver just and right judgment. God is counting on you. That's why He gave you that privilege. When you follow the truth, you follow the law exactly as it should be followed, you execute righteous judgment, the wicked will be afraid. Even those who would have broken the law or indulged into some disorderly behavior, they will learn a lesson. They will be afraid. They will say, if you do this, you will be taken to the courts of law, and there at the courts of law, they are not doing jokes. They are not corrupted. When you do this, they will ensure that justice prevails and you receive the right punishment for your deeds. So because of that, they will be warned. They will keep themselves away from committing crimes. They will be disciplined. You instill discipline by following the law and passing right judgment in society. You teach people the law. You teach people to behave in a right manner. When you preserve and you pass right judgment, you are teaching people to say this must not be done. This must not be practiced. People must not live in this way. When you uphold the law, you uphold the truth, and you pass right judgment, the wicked will learn. They will know. They will be afraid. They will fear. They will avoid breaking the law. They will respect lives. They will respect other people's property. They will respect you, and they will respect the institutions of law and the systems of law. They will respect the leadership. There will be peace in the country. There will be peace in the community. There will be peace in the world. People will be at liberty. They will feel safe, and they will feel free. You'll be trusted. You'll be respected as you should when you do the right thing. You will indeed be called honorable, your noble, or whatever those names which they refer to you. Those names may only be worth, and you may only qualify to be referred to maybe some of those names if you do what is required of the titles that you hold. Not you do otherwise. You don't respect the law. Then you are called those names. It's the abuse and misuse of those names. You are of no value and you have no use to the people and to the society if you don't serve diligently, correctly, and in accordance with the truth. May God help you and help us to amend our ways and do things in the right way, so that what is expected, what is right, what is correct and righteous and truthful may come out of what we do. Thank you very much.